Good morning, Metaverse. I'm Thor with the Red Hand, and this episode is going to be about version 3, V3 for the Sage Star Atlas browser game. And this is going to be focused on crew and space stations. I've done a couple different videos that I'll reference to. You'll see them linked in the description below. Specifically, the reading that I did on the entire game manual document that this is going to be based off of. And then this is really my thoughts and theory crafting, things that I've talked to different community members and what I'm really focused on and excited about in these different versions to give you a better idea of what to expect as development goes on, when the different parts of development are going to happen, so that you know where you are in different stages of bringing the game to the community. So let's dive right into that. All right, cool. V3. And so previously in version 2, we talked about careers and developing the skill tree and the licensing. And then this one is more about the crews. So the licensing is your fleet-wide attributes and things that you have done fleet-wide and I guess aggregating those skill bonuses. And then your crews, this is going to be a little bit later in that process. Your crews are going to be able to actually get their specific race and type. In V2, you'll have NPC portraits, so you can start seeing what they look like. This is going to actually make them a little bit more complicated characters, a little bit more round characters. So let's focus on crew for a second here before we talk about space stations. Now, in V3, crew start to be turned into individual NFTs. Each crew member is going to be specifically different than the next as it develops its own skill tree. And depending on where you put them in your fleet will determine where their skill is developed. And there were a couple interesting things as we go through here. In the development of those characters, you have these characters that if you purchase the ship in the Galactic Asset Offering, it's going to come fully filled out with crew. But after the Galactic Asset Offering ships, any other ships that are built or crafted, they're not going to come with crew. And so you're going to have to mint new crew to fill the new ships from a university. And so a crew generation is going to have an Atlas cost to it. Chipto said they probably won't be selling specific characters like the Sammy Banks or Anatoly, which are available in the marketplace right now. But that's still to be determined, but there will be the ability to mint new crew members from the university, and it's not being sold by Star Atlas, but there will be a market cost or an Atlas cost to minting new ones. So in that way, it kind of puts a controller on how many characters are generated. And I think that's very important. And then, these are NFTs like any other NFTs. So if your ship's destroyed in the high risk zone or in the medium risk zone, there might be a chance that your character are destroyed. And so there is a burning mechanic to this creation mechanic. So keeping that even and level is one of those economic levers in the character aspect, the crew member aspect, that I think they've already have an eye on. And because that could have been an area that inflation of characters could become an issue. But so I like that idea of being able to mint new characters from a university, especially if you've lost crew, etc. You also have the crew and pet system, and so anybody that has a Tigu, this is where your pet is going to start being able to benefit the crew. There are added bonuses bonuses, I believe a repair bonus for the Tegus. And, you know, I'm going to put it back out there. You might see a picture of a pig up there. That's my pig, Pigu. She comes on from time to time, and I would really like to see a Pigu incorporated at V3 into the ecosystem. That would make me personally happy, and have a food bonus, or maybe a food cost and have a crew synergy bonus for the food cost. But that's going to be nice to get those different NFTs involved and really start to develop out. And so then the more rare crew members, so something like Sammy Banks or Anatoly, are going to have more aptitudes. And so a character is going to have an aptitude. So let's say a basic character has one aptitude. That means if their aptitude is in piloting, they're going to earn piloting skills faster than if, say, they were in the engineering spot. So if you switched your crew member to the engineering position of your ship, then it would be earning the engineering skills. If their aptitude is in piloting, that might be the better place for them to be to earn and build those skills and increase in level faster. If their aptitude, let's say it's a more rare character, you might have two aptitudes, and so their aptitude is in piloting and engineering. And so whether they're which place you put them in, they'll be earning points in that specific spot. If they're in engineering, they're going to be earning skills in engineering. If they have an aptitude, they'll be earning those skill points faster. And so you can still move them around to any place that you want, but the max minning, the optimization of the way that you lay out your crew is going to start coming in as a play loop and something interesting to bring a diversity to how you play the game and how well you play the game. And so I think that's going to be a great point here in version 3. Now, there was a small section in the game manual, further down on the game manual, that talked specifically about crew, and this is it sounds like this is the early portions of the game, the V0 through V2, before we get into V3 and developing these crew members, how these crew actually work before that point, before they start becoming their own NFTs. So let's read this real quick. Crew members are linked to any ship deposited to Sage. If a ship has 3 crew member slots, it has 3 crew members embedded within it. These crew members are not individual NFTs yet, so it's not version 3 yet, and cannot be separated from the ship or traded peer-to-peer outside of Sage. The tokenized crew system will be added V3. Okay, perfect. So the total number of crew for each ship is the sum of the crew slots. This is all in the basic detail of the ships, so we can figure that out pretty easily. Crew are used when a ship docks in the Central Space Station or Starbase. When docked, the crew members embedded in the ship will become available for crafting at that structure. So crew is essentially your crafting ability, your speed of a crafting, or the number of different items that you're able to craft at one time, I should say. And so when the crew are assigned to craft, it will not be available to join the fleet until it is no longer crafting. Now, Chipto did mention at any point you can stop them from crafting, but it takes a specific amount of time to craft a specific item. So it might take 3 minutes to craft something from iron. That crew member is going to be occupied for 3 minutes until it's finished doing its crafting. If you need that crew member in 2 minutes, you can pull it out, but your crafting is not going to be finished. So that might reset it. I don't know what the specific consequence is, but this is how we're going to be viewing crew before version 3, is sort of your crafting ability. And then total crew members are also used to calculate food consumption of fleet when undocked from the Central Space Station and star bases. And so that's the other aspect of it. It is used to calculate its depletion of resource. So up until V3, they're really basic aspect of how you play the game. It's part of the ship. Once you get to V3 and you start creating these individual characters, that's where this game starts to, you're just focusing on a ship, and now you have a ship and a crew. And that becomes a lot more complicated. And so, get ready for that gameplay, that different ordering of the different parts of your ship, and be ready for that as an asset owner. You may want to sell off some of your ships leading up to that point, so that you're able to manage all of that. With a large fleet, it may be difficult to manage all of that crew. Okay, so now that we have talked about crew, let's get on talk about star bases, and this is a little bit more information. This is where space stations start becoming their own NFTs as well, and become unique, because you can start having space stations and decks. You can put on different crafting and component crafting and module crafting for the ships specifically, but those components are going to need to be on space stations, your crafting areas. You have space station markets that can be developed, and then your regional and sectorial DAOs. Now, I believe faction DAOs came out in V2, and there wasn't much about that specifically. It just seemed like a good time to start the faction DAO and really integrating it into the game, or I should say focusing on it. And then regional sectorial DAOs start to make sense once people are building out their space stations, and individual space stations have different markets, and that individual market, that market pricing out in different areas of space, become a lot more interesting. And so that will be very interesting to take a look at. But here at the bottom, it talks about shipyards, universities, retail, and hangars that would be different modules that you can add to your space stations to make them unique and to function in a different way depending on where in the economy and the space that you are. So let's take a look at the space stations that they talk about a little bit further on the document. Now, I'm not going to get too far into star bases and all the aspects with that. I'm going to do a separate video because there is a lot to chunk through, but because that's the part of version 3, I want to make sure that you understand what's really becoming an active part of the game. And so the star base, their tiers, there are 5 different tiers of star bases. And you can build out these star bases over time. To create a tier 0 platform is a very fast process. But as you go up in tier, each tier becomes more and more expansive, and I should say difficult to craft. And as you get into tiers 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're going to need an entire guild or entire faction to really start building these the bases up and develop that asset out. As you do so, the toolkit efficiency, so repairing and the ability to use those toolkits to do repairs on the starbase is going to increase in efficiency from tier 1 at 0 to up to 25% at tier 5. And then your central space stations, which are always going to be there from the beginning of the game, their toolkit efficiency is all the way up to 30%. And so again, those central space stations are your hubs and will be the most beneficial for going back to. There's a lot of incentive to be there, but if you're operating further out in space, the development of star bases as your home base to be able to repair, and then if fuel efficiency, so star path, I should say star path fuel reduction, the ability to fast travel is going to increase as those tiers increase with the star bases that you have in those locations. And that is where a lot of your conflict is going to be between factions, is going to be centered around these star bases because they are such beneficial hubs to be able to launch operations from multiple people's fleets. So that is sort of the core of what these star bases are going to be, and V3 really starts to integrate and have come in the forefront. And this is an example of a tier 0, a very starting platform. And then further down, they give you some pictures of the central space stations and the immensity that these space stations will be as they grow up in tier. And so that's going to be a really fun section, going through the fuel efficiency, the repair efficiency, the storage. So local storage capacity is, I would say, the next biggest thing. Your ability to bring resources back to an area. The size of your storage in those space stations is really going to limit how much productivity you can do in an area or a specific task that you can do at one given time. If you're going to be bringing together and crafting a lot of different materials, that storage space is going to be extremely important. So higher tiers are going to have larger storage spaces, and it's going to benefit the people that want to do the crafting game loop to help build that star base up and make that a bigger and higher tier area for them to operate through. Your overall efficiency is going to go up massively as a result. Okay, so hopefully that was useful and beneficial to you to understand what to expect coming in version 3 with crew and space stations. I really think that is going to be an explosion of the variety that we get with this game. I'm really looking forward to that. Probably my the version of development that I am most looking forward to. Once we get to that point, most of my wants and desires out of a game are going to be met, at least at their core levels, and then that game is really what we make of it. What you make of the type of gameplays, that play loops that you engage in, and the community that you start building around you. With that in mind, if you know anybody that would find this interesting or helpful, anybody that is interested in getting involved with Star Atlas through their Discord, or with the Red Hand through our Discord, and want to get involved with the repair and rescue part of this game, then you reach out to me on Discord. I'll leave the description or link in the description below. And if you can do that, then today was a good day. Good morning, Metaverse.